What's up, guys? Welcome back to Blood, Sweat, and Gear with Skip Hill. S2H, we're sponsored by True Nutrition. Use our code ADVICES for some additional savings. Awesome supplements. You guys hear me say that every time. What's up, gentlemen? We're back.
Who's the actor guy with the blue hair and the beard?
The blue hair and the beard.
I meant the blue eyes. I fucked the joke. See, it doesn't work. It would be funny if I just didn't fuck it up. Blue eyes, yeah. Anyway, forget it. You look
S2H?
totally different. No, you look totally different. And I'm not kidding when I say this. I don't think we're live anyway. But if I wasn't straight,
oh yeah.
I was gonna say,
Just drop me a DM me later. Just DM me later. All right.
Oh my God. I got you.
You look smart. You look smarter.
Yeah. You know, there was a thing I saw. They said, what was it? That salesmen with beards were more trusted. Like they're wise.
Maybe it's because they look more distinguished. Yeah, there's more of a yeah. And I think the gray helps a little bit too. It's not a lot, but it's enough to be like distinguished. Okay,
be like,
he's handsome.
It's more rugged.
I'm gonna start blushing. What's up? How you guys been?
I wonder what he looks like naked. Oh, okay, I'll stop.
Here, I'll just.
I think it's a pretty much no outside of the trunks. But anyway, aside from that,
exactly. Skip needs to grow a beard as well. That's what Dave Kelly said.
I can't. It's like a 4-hair thing.
A 4-hair
It's
thing?
not very attractive. Yeah, like when you're 19 and you try to grow, you think you're growing a stash and everything else. Even at 50, it would look equally as pathetic, I think.
Okay, so we're going to do a bunch of bodybuilding questions, guys. But I do have to, before we get into that, we're going to talk about steroids. We're going to talk about training. Probably going to talk about diet. You will learn about all those things today. But before we do, I got to ask about the beard thing. When was the first time you tried to grow a mustache?
Me?
Yeah, because mine was like, I think 15. I was like, oh yeah, I got this.
Mine was honestly about 14 or 15 days ago, and it didn't go over very well. You almost spit that out.
I did.
Yeah, no, you know what? I tried it when I was younger. I did. I thought, I've got pictures, and I'm not going to ever bring them up. And my wife is with her sister on the other side of the state, so she won't hear this, so she can't throw me under the bus. They're horrible. They're bad.
Yeah,
they're really bad. And you don't know. Like, you think like it's, in your own mind, it's full, it's sexy. It's like, oh, it looks so much older. No, you don't. You look like a fucking 14-year-old. Yeah, it's bad.
Well, you got a big upper lip. You look like Magnum PI or something.
Yeah,
I could do Tom, I could do the Tom Selleck thing there. I could, and you know what? Sometimes when I don't, this will come in thick. This won't work. Plus, here's the problem. Even if it was thick, there's so much silver. Everything is silver, and I can't do it. My wife loves it, but I can't do it. The second it starts to grow out, is it starting to grow out now? Yeah. I got to shave it off. I can't stand it. Drives me nuts. Makes me feel old. I'm old, but it makes me feel older, and I don't like to be reminded of it when I look in the mirror.
I didn't even think of this. I pulled a prank on Dave Crossland. He has that big, long goatee, and I had to spend like $10 on Amazon to get a fake goatee to pull off a Dave Crossland mustache or outfit. But look at this. I've got extra beards now. Don't ask me why you have to buy like a
jihadi beard.
Beards.
I know. That doesn't even look like a normal.
Yeah.
Look at this one.
Oh my God. Yeah, no.
Look at that one.
You got too much time on your hands.
Hold on.
Way too much time on your hands.
Let's see here.
Yeah, the rest of us are busy during the week, Scott.
Yeah, no, I buy beards and stuff and then shoot videos and put them on YouTube. That's my thing. I've actually been really busy. Things have been going really good with business. But for now, Sunday night, I got to take the headphones off. Tell me what you guys think of this one.
I think that's great already. What the?
Yeah, no, all of a sudden I don't want to see you naked anymore. No,
you look like a WWE wrestler.
There we go. You guys ready to? Do I look smart? Like I know a lot about steroids?
No.
It looks really real too, except for that, minus the string over your cheek. Yeah. Without the strap, it looks so believable.
Scott, when was the first time you tried to grow some facial hair?
It's on one side.
Huh?
When was the first time you tried to grow facial hair? Yeah.
Shit, I don't know. Probably when I was like 14 or something.
Yeah.
15. I don't remember.
All right.
Before Skip did. I should have just got one of those things.
Yeah.
Rocked it around.
It's sticking to my
Now,
real
when we were
beard.
younger, though, beards and stuff wasn't the in thing. Now it's the in thing. Like, you're not a man if you don't have a beard. I'm like, okay, I'm good with it. I don't give a fuck.
You guys want to talk about some bodybuilding?
Not really. Let's go cats. Let's go beards. Let's do
Talk
other
about
things.
beards.
We did get a cat question. We can get to that later.
Yes.
We had some, so we do have a bunch of listener questions over at the Advices Radio Think Big Bodybuilding Media Group. You guys are welcome to join over there, hang out with us, ask questions for all the shows. If you're watching the live feed, throw some questions in for us. But to start us out, one of the things we were kind of spitballing behind the scenes, Skip and I, that is, and S2H a little too, was deadlifts. There was that whole topic, came up a while ago. Are deadlifts for your back or are deadlifts for your legs? I'm kind of out of this conversation because I'm not great at deadlifting, but I'm going to turn it over to you, Skip, because you were saying we need to revisit this one today.
Yeah, I've got and thanks for telling me, guys. I got half a pineapple between my teeth and
I got these old man pubes stuck in my beard.
it won't come out. Like when you get something stuck in it, there it goes. Because now it would have that's what I would have focused on for the next 10 minutes. Okay, here's what's going on. I so wish we could get Dante on the show for this because I already know how he thinks about it. It has, and first I'm going to put a disclaimer on it, and I'm telling you because this is important. I'm not trying to be, weak or a little pussy or a little bitch by saying this, but I'm not trying to start a shitstorm. What I am saying is there are credible, intelligent, experienced people who have different opinions on this topic. Sometimes radically different, completely different, that sort of thing. But just because I disagree doesn't mean that I don't respect somebody else who doesn't agree with my perspective on something. Okay. There has been, I saw it this last week, and I'm not going to mention names, not because I'm literally doing it out of respect because I like the guy. He's very intelligent. He's very good at what he does. I just simply disagree. So it was brought up again this last week on social media about back deadlifts and how they're basically not a back exercise. And here's the other thing. I want to be very careful because I'm not reading his post verbatim.
Okay.
I'm paraphrasing based on what I remember, but I read it several times to make sure it was accurate. And it's what I have heard before from someone else in the industry who is very, very experienced and has a long history, both in powerlifting and bodybuilding as well. And the argument basically these days, in my opinion, is that deadlifts are not a back exercise. And I have a problem with that. And they're in a lot because it doesn't, when they explain it, they admit that it hits traps, it hits erectors, but it doesn't hit this and that. Well, you just mentioned two of the main muscles of the back. So for starters, we're already not on the same page. So their argument is more along the lines of, well, it's not good for lats, rhomboids, things like that. I still disagree because it comes down to execution. And when I say execution, if you're going to do a deadlift in a typical or traditional powerlifting style, possibly, that still has its arguments. I'll get to that in a minute. But bodybuilders should be doing deadlifts different than you would for powerlifting.
Absolutely.
Okay, now,
and including squats, including bench, all that stuff. Exactly. Very different.
They should be tweaked, whether it's positioning, like you said, with squats, position of the bar. There's a lot of different things you can tweak. So one of the things with deadlifting that I think is different, one of the major things when you're a bodybuilder doing deadlifts is there should be retraction. The way I understand it, and I'll go to S2H on this because I don't want to fuck this up, but I have never
just bleeped yourself. Did you catch that? You bleeped yourself. You were like, I don't want to
do that
this up. That was good.
What I do is I decrescendo when I go to swear, when I say good. Like, what the are you talking about?
We can still monetize this up until we start talking about steroids.
Exactly. I swear so much that I've come up with my own system over the years. So anyway, I'm going to go S2H on this, and I say this. Is retraction, S2H, a component of, or like an integral part of a powerlifting deadlift? I don't think that it is. I haven't known that it is, but I could be wrong. And by retraction, I just basically mean retraction of the shoulder blades pulling in at the top of the movement. I'm not trying to put you on the spot.
So to get a legal lift, you have to retract some, because obviously you have to control the bar. I'd say if you were, we call it ape hanging with your arms over the front, shoulders turned all the way forward. Even if you're standing straight up, they're generally not going to give you, a green light, a good lift. But do you retract heavily like bodybuilding deadlifts would do, where you really arch and really kind of over shove the chest out? No. I'll tell you too, it kind of depends on the person. So shorter guys with shorter arms tend to retract more.
Sure. But in general, we all agree that from a bodybuilding perspective, retraction would be important. Even if you're not doing it much in a powerlifting set, you're getting the green light. You're getting the lift. And so, okay, fine. You may not care much about it, but in bodybuilding you would. And here's the reason why I bring this up. His argument this last week was saying that if there's not a range of motion for those muscles, like the lats or the rhomboids, things like that, middle traps, that there can't be hypertrophy. And I was like, gosh, this guy, and I'm being very careful how I say this guy, and maybe it was just the way that I understood, that I didn't understand exactly what he was meaning, which quite frankly means that he wasn't very clear in how he was explaining it, in fairness. So he's an intelligent guy. He knows his shit. And that kind of struck me. I was like, well, this is kind of a bizarre thing. Muscles that stabilize can still grow. They don't have to be worked through a full range of motion. But again, let's just say that is true. I assume that he's talking about then that there's no retraction, because as soon as you have retraction, then you have movement and you have range of motion through the shoulder blades, through the rhomboids, middle traps, things like that. So is it like doing, say for lats, is it like doing a lat pull? Well, of course it's not, but it's still here's the best way to explain it. I hate to say this, but, and let me back up. I am not at all saying that it is predominantly because I've written articles about this and we've talked about this before. I do not believe that deads are all that great of an exercise for overall back development. I've said that so many times over the years.
Do me a favor, guys. Don't follow the channel.
And that turns, I know it. Well, how you think Elite FTS feels about me saying that? But that's just my opinion based on the things I've seen over the years. I'm not saying that it can't help or create a better back, but for full back development, if you were just to do deads and you think you're going to, a lot of people who pull deads, they do end up with a relatively weak lower back in the sense of like lats. They end up with a much wider upper back, thick erectors, but a lot of times that lat development is not there. So, there are components of what he was saying that I completely agree with. But when you say that there isn't the potential for hypertrophy there, and that it's not a back exercise, I guess I don't understand. Is it a leg and hip exercise? Is it a glute exercise? Is it a hamstring? Well, of course. But where are you going to be the most sore? You can't do deads. You can't walk into the gym after not doing deads for 4 months, even if you've been training your back all along. Do deads and walk out the next day and not have your back be like, oh my fucking God.
How many powerlifters don't have like severely thick rhomboids? And they all do.
And then like I said, I know Dante's. I shouldn't speak for Dante. I will say this though, because I'm so confident that he will agree with this. After being alongside him on Intense Muscle for so many years, and him talking about deads and everything else, and knowing Dusty Henshaw's same thing, his views on it, those two. Now, I'm not saying they're right and everybody else who disagrees with them is wrong, but the point is I'm trying to make the point that there are people who are incredibly intelligent, very experienced, everything else, who come from two completely different sides of this debate. And I don't know where this turned. I don't know why all of a sudden it almost like this debate or this argument came out of the blue like 2 or 3 years ago. Yeah. And I think I know who it was who brought it up.
It wasn't Dusty.
No, it wasn't Dusty. It's someone who I got to be careful how I say this because I don't want to sound disrespectful. It's someone who likes confrontation, who likes to get outside of the box and likes to kind of stir the pot a little bit when it comes to methods and comes to things in bodybuilding. So I wasn't surprised by that. And I don't think that he doesn't believe that. I think he does believe that. I'm blown away by things like that. I don't agree with that. And I wonder where you guys stand on it. I guess I'm going to be surprised if you don't agree, not because you need to agree with me, but because I've never heard you guys say anything like that before.
I would say this. So the technique for a powerlifter in deadlifting varies from a bodybuilder in one extent, where when you pull the weight, the bar comes up your shins tight. When you get the weight all the way up into your upper quads, powerlifters, we tend to slide our hips forward because you have to maintain control of the bar, and then to be given the command to lower, and then you have to maintain, the bar when you lower. It's part of the lift. You can't just dump it down there. So you tend to you'll slide your hips forward, or basically push them forward.
Yeah.
To use your hips, your upper quads, to stabilize the bar in position, and then on the descent back down. Bodybuilders tend to not do that. They tend to stand more erect and then put the chest forward, arch the back to get that feeling. Now powerlifters retract too. They retract a little differently. I said they slide the hips forward more because generally you're dealing with a lot of weight. And so you want to be able to control that weight and also for the descent. So it's a little bit different. But to say you don't retract as a powerlifter, I think it can be person dependent, but I think most powerlifters do. Maybe not to the extent of bodybuilders, but I mean, I know a lot of powerlifters have known a lot. I mean, most powerlifters have really good traps, rhomboids, and spinal erectors. Do they always have the widest back? No, because if they're really truly a powerlifter, they don't really train that. I mean, genetically they could grow for them, but in general, you see most powerlifters have it looks like two tubes going down for their rhomboids.
Exactly.
PVC pipes. And, depending if they're an over, especially if they're an over puller, they don't over-under pull.
Right.
You'll see even better rhomboid growth. Over-under guys you can tell an over-under guy real easy. Look at his traps. If one's a little bit bigger than the other or a little taller, he's probably an over-under puller.
Well, I tell you, there's another way to tell though, when it comes to world-class powerlifters that are over/under. They have a torn bicep on one side.
Yeah,
that too. Yeah,
yeah.
I was never an over/under guy. So
let me say though, I want to be clear that I'm not saying that this person said anything about retraction. I'm saying his words were that there isn't any range of motion. I'm using the word retraction because I feel that with retraction, and how a bodybuilder would make sure or should that there is obvious retraction to the point of even potentially limiting the amount of weight you're using so that you get the retraction, even if you can get it to full lockout, but you can't get retraction, then you need to drop it because you got to get the retract. That's a bodybuilding thing. You want that development in the upper middle back. And without retraction, it is going to be limited. Sure, absolutely. Absolutely. So I don't want to mislead or basically say something that he didn't say. Retraction is my word. I'm saying his argument was that if there isn't a full range of motion, that there can't be hypertrophy. And I'm just going with it. Here's an example. That would basically say then that planks for abs are useless because there's no full range of motion. When we've had chiropractors, good, very intelligent, articulate chiropractor come on and say that they don't even think that the abdominal wall needs to be worked through a full range of motion. That because it's a stabilizer, it's kind of like with spinal erectors, same thing. You're not working. The spinal erectors hinge at the hip. They're a stabilizer for the spine. There's not a range of motion for the erectors. We're not flexing. I put my hands up. We're not flexing the spine during a stiff leg deadlift or anything else. We're hinging. And so those spinal erectors are stabilizers going up the spine that just keep it in place under higher resistance or more weight. So if they're growing, explain how that can happen without a full range of motion. It's just either that or that's what I'm saying. So I guess what I'm saying is maybe it was just poorly explained. But you have to be careful when you have this big reach. And this isn't me chastising this guy at all. Like I said, I have respect for the guy. I think he's incredibly knowledgeable. I just don't agree with this, with how he approached this, because I think it's starting to get traction. Because here's what happens when somebody says something like that. You go to the comment section, and all of a sudden, these people that don't, they train people, but nobody knows who the fuck they are or anything else because everybody's a trainer, and they're all agreeing. And I'm starting to think, at first you think, oh my God, all these people buying it. No, they buy into it because they trust the knowledge that is coming from us. And that's where I worry that things like this gain traction. It's not purposely misleading. I know his intent was not to mislead, but I don't think the way the information was put out there was accurate. I just don't think it's accurate. And I don't agree. I just really don't agree with that.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people with really good backs that have done a lot of deadlifts that probably wouldn't agree either. And I can tell you, man, I'm not a deadlift guy, but and it's not. I guess I kind of see, if you wanted to try to get scientific and be like, well, what's the reason? You're going to get a lot more retraction in an exercise where you're actually pulling your arm back, I guess.
No,
you're not. But you know what? Hold on a second, though. Do you really need to retract your back to? What's the difference between a row? And I'm just throwing this out here. I'm not invested in this either way. I'm not, like I said, I'm not a huge deadlift guy. But what's the real difference if I'm gonna stand upright and drive my elbows back? What's the difference between that and me, like rowing to right here?
Not as much for retraction, but you're not opening the scapula up to a larger range of motion like you would with a row.
Yeah, okay.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
When the arms are hanging down, the scapula are not going to be as open as if you were rowing.
That makes sense.
And that's why it's important when you're rowing that the scapula need to open up, because otherwise you're limiting your range of motion.
Yeah.
It would be like saying pauses, like leaving the muscle under tension. Doesn't work. So let's say I was going to do a lift, let's say dumbbell presses, and I bring them halfway down and I pause. Is that going to build muscle?
I'd say yes.
Because your muscle's under tension. Yeah. Now you could manipulate a deadlift to where you don't put a lot of tension on your back.
Yeah. That's
possible. Especially if you dead hang it, ape hang it. You're just basically pulling on your shoulders, the joints. So it's possible to deadlift improperly and not put as much tension on the back, even with some retraction, but they're still done properly. There's a lot of tension on the back. I always look at the deadlift. It starts in the legs, obviously, but as the bar comes up to mid shin, it's spinal erectors up into rhomboids, up into traps as you come up, as you fully lock out. So with a proper deadlift, I don't see, and that's why most powerlifters have big ass rhomboids. They're not, especially true powerlifters that aren't doing bodybuilding exercises a lot or any of that kind of stuff. Maybe T-bar rows or something. But yeah, I don't know. I would have to say that I agree with you, Skip.
Oh my God. Oh my God. It's a first.
What is the date today? It's the 17th of January, 2021.
Yeah. We used to agree a lot.
That I feel good about that because of I know, just recently we'd like to fuck with each other. But your background being powerlifting, I feel better because I didn't know that you weren't going to come back and say, no, the retraction isn't that important in powerlifting or whatever. I don't know that because that's out of my wheelhouse. So I wasn't sure about that. But like I said, I just want to drive this. I want to keep saying this. I am not bringing this topic up to fuck with anybody or because I don't like them or I just disagree. And he did say things like, it is a good movement for the traps. It is a good movement for the erectors, which that's where it's such a gray area because those are muscles of the back. Everything is working as far as the posterior chain, pretty much from your ankle to your traps. So I don't know how you could essentially shut down growth halfway up the posterior chain or 3/4 of the way up the posterior chain and say that, no, it's just so glute and hamstring dominant. Then, we skip over these few muscles. And I'm not trying to be a dick or sounding condescending when I say this, but I'm paraphrasing, but we skip over these muscles and then we just jump right to the traps and there's no growth in between. Again, if he is
all right,
saying,
then we got to go to break.
Fair enough. If he is saying, and just not saying it, that I didn't think it was very clear, that it is not a great exercise for overall back development, that I completely agree with. And I've said that for years, but that isn't what I got out of it at all. I got it that it was not a back movement, and that I just completely disagree with. If I can disagree more than 100%, I will.
All right. Well, listen, since we're going to talk about stuff here that'll mean that we can't monetize the show on YouTube, we're going to go to a commercial break with our great sponsor, True Nutrition, and try to make our money back that way. We'll be back in just a second, guys. Hey, what's going on, guys? Thanks for watching another podcast here at Think Big Bodybuilding Media. And thank you to our great sponsor, TrueNutrition.com, for making this all possible. TrueNutrition.com is owned by Dante Trudell, the creator of DC Training. He wanted to create a supplement company that offered high-quality, third-party tested supplements at a fair price. High-quality protein powders, just about every type you could think of. Huge variety of flavors, plus health and performance supplements. Check them out, TrueNutrition.com. And hey, if you use our code ADVICES, you directly support our podcasting. Thanks, guys. Let's get back to the program. What's up, guys? Welcome back to Blood, Sweat, and Gear. Skip and Stage, S2H. We were asked a question about S2H's real identity. We might get to that. We might not. And I'm sure we won't get a solid answer either way. But we do have a bunch of listener questions. So we're going to jump in. Guys, if you have any listener questions on the live feed, feel free to throw them in here. We did get a comment saying Scott looks like he's bulking, but there's two of us. And then another guy was like, well, anytime you grow a beard, it looks like you're bulking. But we both have beards now, so.
That's because we all know fat guys who try to. Yeah, we all know fat guys who try to cover that chin with a beard.
It's working,
That's
I think.
Why?
You know? It's
yeah, but you're not. You're not.
Ooh,
you're not.
I'm getting there. I'm back up to about 230, though. So I dipped down. I got a question. Actually, I don't. Mint. I already know the answer. That's why you don't like mint. Either you guys are really fans. I gained a bunch of water on it. I'm going to tell you what, because I recently got asked about this again. I couldn't control estrogen with all the Arimidex in the world, so I'm gonna throw that out there. It was not
on your Deca no ester.
Yeah, is that meant? It was the Trestolone enanthate.
Well, you couldn't get the estrogen under control while on ment.
Yeah, it was bad.
Is that what you got? Yeah, look, I had, and I won't mention his name, but a relatively local pro here who had two of them. Who had the exact same, it was off the charts.
Yeah.
And it did not matter how much they took, it wasn't doing a damn thing. And the dosage wasn't even that high in the mint.
Like, what are we talking?
I can't remember, unfortunately. If I could, I would say. But I mean, it just wasn't very big. I want to say, this is off the top of my head, only like 300 meg. Yeah. Maybe 400. It wasn't much.
100 for me, 100 a week.
No kidding. No kidding.
You know what blows my mind, though? Is I used mint a decade plus ago during a contest prep. Like, we didn't really know. People had said, like, you could use it cutting, you could use it bulking. And so I figured, well, I got some as an experiment. A lab had started making it, and I was one of their guys that, tested out and post about it and stuff. And I still got lean. I still got shredded, and I don't remember what I had to do with AI, but thinking back to that era, it was probably like an Arimidex Letrozole through the roof combo. So, but I remember like 2 weeks out being like, oh yeah, I still got some pressed on my ankles. Yep. Still got water retention. Retention.
Next time, just save the money and the hassle of trying to get mint and just crush up birth control.
Yeah.
And then either inject them or,
no esters are going to aromatize heavily.
No, it is estered. It was.
I thought it wasn't. I was using the other one.
No, I never heard of the no estered mint. That'd be crazy.
Are you using the oral one?
No.
Or injectable?
Yeah, Trestolone enanthate.
It used to be oral.
They have I can't remember where this was. They saw some stuff where they're testing out, speaking of estrogen, giving it to men with the COVID vaccine.
I know there'd be like volunteers for that.
Yeah. And just testing in general, because women have less issues with COVID, I guess. And so they've been doing some testing with having men taking estrogen and with the vaccine. Yeah.
Well, maybe that study will go over about as well as using testosterone as a male contraceptive, because that went over like a lead balloon. They went for years, and finally they're like, fuck it, this just isn't working. We're done. All
right. So what do we got here? Diving into our questions. What We'll start out with a drug question here. T3. So T3, thyroid hormone, one of the thyroid hormones, 25 micrograms. Could a natty use this to lose body fat at that dose?
Say it, S2H. Say it.
Then you're not a natty.
Damn, mic drop. Bam. Next question.
Yeah, 25.
Yeah.
So 25 in most males is about the amount you need to take exogenously to actually give you some kind of a lift. I'd say, yeah. I mean, it's gonna speed your thyroid. I mean, it's gonna speed everything up. Your thyroid, it depends. Everybody's different, but what's your body's naturally producing and how your thyroid's functioning, can vary. But I remember way back we used to talk about doing 12.5, and there were some studies and some people using it saying, "Hey, I'm not getting much out of it because you're not really doing anything different than what your body's doing naturally." So 25, and plus they make them in 25, so that makes sense. But I'd say 25 is enough to speed things up and to help with some fat loss. But we're talking a small percentage. But you got to be careful too, because if you're natural and you're taking it, you can lose some muscle. It can cause some reduction on the other side.
Yeah, that's what he was curious about.
I think that's why he pointed out the fact that he's natural. We were just having, for me, it was an attempt at levity. For S2H, it was just, he's just mean to people. But the point is I don't mean, when he's saying he's natural, he could just be stating, I don't use things. I'm not going to go into a natural show and take T3. We were just taking jabs at it. But from a natural standpoint, it does matter because, again, anytime you get into, well, not clen, but certainly thyroid medication, there is the possibility that the higher the dose goes, depending on caloric intake and things like that, and how you respond, each person responds individually. Yeah, you do run the risk of it potentially kind of being catabolic. I hate that word.
Yeah,
so bad, but I have to use it to make the point so that everybody understands what I'm saying. The only thing I would slightly disagree on, and I don't think we're off by very much, but with S2H is the 25 microgram. I think and I think you'll agree, S2H, I think it was just confusing the way he said it. It doesn't, I don't believe that it replaces the natural, like it's an even wash. I do think it's enough over, like you were saying, to get a response, but it's not substantially high. It's not like it's a very conservative dose. Would you agree? Yeah. I mean, it's pretty conservative. Level. So I don't see 25 microgram, even if he's natural, really having any detrimental effect unless he's just already starving himself and the calories are low and the cardio output is ridiculously high, things like that. I don't think 25 microgram would get damn near anybody into a position where they felt like they were, losing, muscle tissue, which is obviously, when I say losing muscle tissue, quickly reversible. It's not like you actually lose it and can't find it.
Yeah, I feel
taper off of it too is smart. Don't just quit a thyroid medication cold turkey. So if you're going to use it, do a little taper off for a week or so.
Yeah.
Now Dave Palumbo would disagree with that.
He'd tell you just stop.
And he has always said over the years, unless he's changed it recently in the last 2 or 3 years, but back when he was prepping a lot of people and he was big in the game, he would say that even if the dosage was higher,
really,
that the thyroid is resilient. And that it will recover without having to taper back down. Here's
kidding.
Where I am. I think if it's a low dose, it's 25 microgram or 50 microgram, I don't typically step down. Or long-term is a good point as well. I agree with. But then then you have to define long-term, and that's a relative term. Everybody will, have different
64 days.
Definitions there. The point being is he had always said that it was widely accepted. I have not seen anybody ever in the entire time that I have had clients and used it myself for years and years and years ever have a problem with their thyroid function coming back online or recovering. I will say this though, and this is important because it's an important caveat. Sometimes if you're abusive with it, it takes longer for the thyroid to recover, but I have never seen a lack or complete lack of recovery from abusing. And I've seen some vicious T3, T4 protocols over the years and thought to myself, God damn, they recovered from that. Holy shit. And every single one of them has recovered. I have not heard of anyone that has not recovered.
Let me.
I had a guy that was on 100 micrograms a day for like over a year, and then he was a guy I worked with before, and he came back. He's like, "Man, I feel like crap." And I'm like, "Okay, let's go through the whole thing." And he had stopped that cold turkey like a couple of days before, and he had been on it for like over a year. So I got him back on it and told him you need to taper on down, and we did it slowly over about a month, and then he was in pretty good shape there.
Yeah, I would expect more issues
Dave,
running 100 micrograms of T3 for a year than anything. That in itself would a lot of health ramifications to that, I would imagine.
But if you take Fiberlize, it'll fix you.
What about T3 in the off season? We had some talk about that on another one of the programs recently. A respected coach had said that it could be a beneficial move. Years back in the message board days, you'd hear some talk about people doing it, and the word was that you would get some upregulated protein synthesis, and there could be some benefit to it. What's your take, Skip?
You're
we're going to agree again. We're going to agree again here in a minute.
I don't know who it was. Now I got to be careful.
No, I'm just saying, what's your personal opinion? Yeah. You know what I mean? It's like,
I get you. I'm not a fan of T3 in the off season. I was before the transition to T4 to counter GH use, but it was a very minor, whether it be 12.5 milligrams of T3 a day, maybe as high as 25 micro, just depend on the person. But I'm not a fan of T3 in the off season, especially if you're going to use it, during prep. You kind of want the most bang for your buck. And I don't think that using it in the off season, look, if you want to keep your metabolism elevated, there are better ways to do it than T3. Cardio will help to increase appetite and that sort of thing without messing or playing around with your thyroid hormones. I'm not saying that whoever said that is wrong. I don't know if he has reasons that I may not be aware of, but I can't think of any. And for that reason, I'm not in support of that. T4, yeah, if in basically synced with GH use, but in low dose, of course, no more than you need based on, what you need for your growth hormone, and blood work will tell you that.
Do you have any other thoughts on that, Scott? Because if not, I've got another question.
Yeah, I would disagree with Skip. I think that if you're going to take low dose T3 in the off season, why don't you just change your diet a little bit or do something different? I mean, I don't really see the use in it.
All right, then let me ask you, Scott.
It's not that big of a player anyway.
What would you recommend to our natural guy then? He wants to, if he were to use like a PED of some type to help lose fat, would 25 micrograms of T3 be something you would consider for him, or would you go a different route?
Well, honestly, I'd go.
I would go change. I would make his diet changes and make him do more cardio.
So you wouldn't.
Well, I don't think it's something. I don't think for a natural competitor that's something.
He's not necessarily a natural guy. He's just a guy who's not on steroids.
Well, anybody. I don't know. I just don't really see. I don't think. First of all, I don't think T3 is the magic pill. Okay, a lot of people think it's like it's just going to be like I'm going to take T3 and get shredded. I mean, it's going to give you some assistance. I mean, I don't know what his thyroid panel looks like, so that'd be a starter. It's like, where's your natural, what are your natural thyroid levels? And then maybe
he asked about a compound though. That's the only reason I said that, because I agree with you. I agree with you with diet and cardio. That should be the first move, whether anybody's on gear or not on gear. Yeah. But from there, if he's asking, he's natural and he is saying, I'm not going to take any AAS. Is there another compound that I can use? Clenbuterol would be a good idea from a fat burning standpoint, because at least it's more aggressive and it's more powerful and it would work, but it also increases protein synthesis that much more. That would help him being natural. So I'm not condoning that. I mean, that's his decision. All I'm saying is, if he's saying, is there another compound and I'm not going to be using AAS with it, what would be a good call? I would probably.
I would say Clenbuterol over T3.
Okay.
Right.
If you wanted to do something, I would pick Clenbuterol over T3.
Okay.
Agreed. Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I figured. We could try to maybe find something that would be helpful for him. I think Scott makes a good point too, because I've talked about it with like Dave Crossland on drugs and stuff, that one of the great things about that, like a low dose of T3, is that as you're dieting, your thyroid can get kind of sluggish, and that, I mean, it makes sense. What if this natural guy, especially like a natural guy who's dieting really hard, I mean, maybe his thyroid does go down. Maybe it would be helpful to have like a small dose. But that goes back to what you were saying, like getting lab work done and seeing where he's at to begin with, right?
Yeah, you know,
But I
also,
thought you said you were off.
I was going back to our original question.
Okay.
I mean, there could be other factors in there too. I mean, maybe he was kind of heavy, and he's got some some blood sugar level issues. Maybe there's something else going on too. That's the reason why he's having trouble losing body fat. So just jumping on the thyroid train may not be the right answer anyway. There might be some other answers. So I would say get labs, full panel, have them looked at, and see what's going on. Maybe your testosterone levels are really low and your estrogen levels are high. There could be something else in there. The reason why you're not losing body fat, outside of training, diet.
All right. We just got one up in the live feed here. I know Skip's answer on this. Maybe Scott has something different. Any feedback on 6 months cycling of IPAM and CJC 1295?
Skip or me?
You. Sorry. I don't know what I said, but you. Because I know Skip's opinion.
I mean, that's a pretty trendy combo,
Yeah.
I just don't. I don't really see a lot of the peptides doing a whole lot. I mean, there's some. I see a lot of placebo peptide use. People think they did work. Take some growth and just do it. I mean, we used to do those things. I mean, I've done a shitload of those peptides, and I'll be honest with you, outside of IGF-1 and growth, I never really got it. I mean, other than what's the one that makes you eat all the time? GHRP2.
6.
6, I'm sorry. Yeah. But, I mean, I just never really saw that much in them. I just never really saw the returns on them. And they were different, all the whole gamut. I used to have a whole freezer full of that shit. I mean, I could have started my own store.
People don't realize.
I never really saw much out of them. Because you're actually taking a chunk of the chain, of the protein chain, and it's just different parts of the chain of growth hormone, and it's basically subbing in a lot of them for parts of it. You got 44 amino acids of this and that, and what it is they're trying to piece them together in these combos to almost create like a growth hormone effect.
Well, that's like with Frag, but I think with this, it's like gonna release. It'll upregulate your own production, but
it's still an amino acid chain.
Yeah.
It's just a section of that amino acid chain. And I don't know. I just never saw that much out of them.
I think the thing that a lot of the younger people don't get is that the guys like yourselves and myself, we've all spent thousands of dollars. Not all of us, but a lot of us have spent
free. I don't know what you spent on.
A lot of us have spent thousands of dollars on that stuff. It's not like you just took one bottle. And this is across the board. Like everybody from 2006 who was bodybuilding. Right. You know what I mean? Like they took so much of that stuff, and people are asking the questions, but now we have like a decade of people who've done it, so.
There's one more thing that I think needs to be said, and that is that the large majority of average people out there have this misconception that a lot of the high level amateurs and pros use these peptides, and they just don't. They use growth hormone and IGF. You're not going to find. I mean, I'd put my best guess as far as if I have 20 clients who are high level amateurs or pros, one or two of them might be using peptides instead of growth hormone, or in combination with growth, which I don't want to slam, but I just think that's to me like taking testosterone and then taking tribulus and thinking the tribulus is going to do something. Maybe that's not a very fair, but that's my analogy to make the point that if what you're using is a 9 on a scale of 1 to 10, and then you're going to use something that's less than a 1 on top of it, it's just a waste of money. And the frequent injections and having to schedule it and remember it and worry about whether you're breaking the peptide up, whether you're not handling it right, the waste of money. That's why, and I know people sometimes roll their eyes, I'd almost bet, because if they've watched us for any length of time, they know our stance on a lot of these peptides, and when we say just use growth hormone, so it's kind of like, oh God, these old guys, they just want you, because it works, and we know the side effects, and we know what we're going to get out of it, and we've used damn near everything there is to use 10 times over. So for fuck's sake, man, if there's a reason we're saying it.
I got sucked back into the mint though. Like I should have known better. I did it before. It was a phase a long time ago. It became a phase again, and I got sucked in again. And guess what? I had to learn my lesson again. You know, all
and now you know
new stuff.
I mean, you weren't sure, you try it again. There are things I come back to just basically go, okay, still doesn't work. But sometimes you come back to something. I came back to IGF and went, 10 years later, and went different ball game now.
Yeah.
So
Incline or GH. That's the two to go for.
Yeah.
All right. What else we got here? Want to hear all three of your opinions on this. The best calves to thighs in bodybuilding, both from the front and the back. Not talking pure size here, but harmony and balance of the wheels.
Oh, I might have to think. I mean, Tom Platz.
Of course he comes to mind. You know, Tom Platz is like one of the first people. Who else
but
has
this
really
is just
good calves?
so subjective. I mean, it's just kind of a preference, really, more than anything. I mean, I'm gonna go Ronnie, because from the back, there's just it's lights out on anybody who's ever turned around from the back. The problem is when he turns around from the back, you don't even really notice calves and hamstrings. You just notice this glute that is about 4 feet tall.
Yeah.
And you just think to yourself, how can a glute be that long? Like, it must take him a day and a half to wipe his ass. It must. It just has to. Like, he has to take a shit, get in the shower, because wiping your ass would just take forever. Now, I don't know. I mean, again, it's pretty subjective. I mean, I would, Matt, like I said, what comes to mind for me is Ronnie. I mean, I could go with, guys that are not as well known. I still think Ant Bales looks fucking crazy from every angle. I've long said, if I was forced, if God came down and actually existed, came down and said, you know what, you can't keep your body anymore, you got to trade it for somebody else's, I'd be like, you know what, Ant, I just like his look. I think his look is really, really good. Yeah. So somebody might say, why not Flex Wheeler? Nah, Flex had bad kidneys.
I don't have a good answer.
I was going to say Flex Wheeler.
Yeah.
Kevin LeBron.
Yeah. You can't go wrong. I mean, really, if you think about it, it's just it's a matter of pride. And I'm not knocking the question at all. I'm just saying, he was saying from the front and the back.
Yeah.
Was he saying the front or the back?
Both.
No kidding. Or Tony Pearson. We're going to leave Tony out. Those calves are a little weak. And you're going to find, too, I mean, he may be asking this question because calves don't matter a whole lot anymore these days. You can win shows without good calves, and it's happening quite a bit. Go back to the 80s, the late 80s. You could not, early 90s, you could not do that. In the mid 90s, that started to change where it kind of didn't really matter anymore. And that's
Lee Labrada.
Yeah.
Lee Labrada.
Oh, yeah.
You're going to crush Scott's dreams when you tell him calves don't matter.
I was trying to look pictures up to see if I could jog my memory of anybody. You know who had really good calves? I don't know whatever happened to him. Remember Jeff Long from maybe about a decade ago?
Yeah.
He had crazy calves. In fact, I feel like he almost had the same problem as he was a bodybuilder. He had the same issues.
No, but he powerlifted before.
Did he really?
But if you're talking about just calves, then that's completely different because, I mean, even like guys like Matarazzo and stuff, but he admitted too that Matarazzo had essentially the same genetic disease that you do. He didn't train them very much, and they were just kind of he admitted they were just more of a genetic gift than anything else. And, you can't like somebody like that. Yeah. You got to hate somebody like that because that's just not even fair. God likes him so much more than he liked me that I just don't find that very fair.
Huh. We got
you got to be old to answer a calf questions because they don't really matter anymore.
Big T says Jeff Long lives in his town.
Oh, no kidding.
Cool.
Nate Pennington said Eric Fankhauser. He had some crazy legs overall.
Okay. Yeah. All right.
Yeah. Nate, get some more tattoos, dude. You need some more tattoos.
He's running out of room. He's like my home gym. He doesn't have much space left.
He's down to 1 square foot. What's that?
Nate, I want to know, Nate. Nate, he has to comment. Does Nate listen all the time, or is this a one-off? If he listens all the time, that's a cool dude. Because I didn't know he listened.
Probably too busy making videos or playing at the the honky tonk.
And Big T does
Right.
Big T does Jeff Long still train? That's what I want to know. I want to know how big he is now. I'll move on.
We reverted to asking the listeners questions now instead of answering ourselves. We're just going to throw a bunch of questions out for the listeners.
We'll see what the guys say here, and we'll pull the next question up while we do that. Oh, it's the off-topic kind of question, but it's off and on topic, really. Not bodybuilding. Just curious. I know Skip has talked about it before, but how did he get his name Skip? How did he get the name Skip with S2H's? What is S2H's real name? What is his background in the industry?
Social security number.
And how did the three of you meet and create this wonderful program? Oh, and looks like we got a couple messages here. Nate Pennington says, I listened to all the episodes, but it's the first time ever catching the live ones. Shout out to you,
Oh, no
Nate.
kidding. Very cool.
Nate Pennington will be in my bio when I give it, because he's in there somewhere.
Yeah, and Big T says he does. That Jeff Long's around 220, 230 right now. But his calves are still like that of a 260, you know? Yeah. So why don't we start with you, S2H? Who? Let's lay it out. Let's get your driver's license number and all that out here while we're at it.
I lost it. I don't have my passport. You want my passport? No. What was the question?
Who are you?
Me.
What is your real name?
What's your
address? Social security number?
His name is Scott. And but I think it is a good question because we do have people, because a lot of times Skip does a lot of the talking, which you've pointed out.
It's famous.
And
over and over.
People are like, who's that guy in the red hat? Well, you're both wearing red hats now, but you see where I'm going with this.
Mine's pink.
I mean, what do you want? You want the Cliff Notes or the long version?
Give us some of the details. Give us some of the Cliff Notes. Yeah.
I would say, like a lot of people, I started lifting when I was like 13. Played football in high school. Wrestled.
This isn't the bullet point.
Powerlifting team, all that stuff, and then I started getting more getting into powerlifting. Because really bodybuilding, I mean, when I was a kid, we had all the Lou Ferrigno, Arnold, but I was a big follower of Dan Duchesne. I don't know how I ever got his handbook, the Underground Handbook, but started powerlifting and after, high school and stuff. And then I think it was when I was 26, I tore my labrum bench pressing. So I quit lifting for about 4 or 5 years and got super fat. Like 300 and something pounds.
Who are you?
And
cut to the chase.
Why? Like, how did? Like, yeah,
how'd I get? Ended up with you guys. So I think it was like I met my wife. She was a bodybuilder. She was really pretty good. I mean, she probably could have gone pro, but she won the state championship a couple of times. And so I kind of got into bodybuilding with her. I was going to the gym and everything. That's where I met her, but. Really got in that scene and everything, and then I decided to compete. Didn't do like middle of the pack. Competed again. I don't remember, like upper middle of the pack, but I just kind of like, I don't know if this is really for me. And I kind of like powerlifting, but then I got into I took a lot of gear when I was young. So after I lost all that weight, my natural testosterone was like nothing. It was like 92. And so I got on TRT. That was like 20 years ago. And I figured, well, I better figure out what happened to me. So I started studying it, And then when
this is the part I wanted to talk about. So he was like, so when I was 13 years old, I looked up to Lou Ferrigno and I played some high school sports and I really enjoyed the color blue. And then he's like, he gets to the part I want to talk about. And he's like, and then I started researching about TRT, blah, blah, blah. And then we're here.
Okay. So anyway, I went to the doctor, had a pretty progressive doctor. He's like, hey, your testosterone sucks. You're not very old. And you're fat and everything else. So I got on TRT, started working me through that program, but I figured out, hey, I started going back to the gym, dropped like 100 and something pounds in a year. And I'm like, I need to figure out what happened, why this happened, and started studying it. Met my wife, got in the bodybuilding scene with her, competed a couple times. Then I started following Dave Palumbo with RX Muscle Magazine. I had a subscription that came every month.
Get him nervous. He's not used to talking about himself.
When RX Muscle came online, which I didn't know how to use a computer, I figured it out. And I started posting in their chem forum, and then they asked me to be, what they call him? Not moderator. like a leader of that section. And then I became a moderator, super moderator. And actually that's where I met Nate, because Nate was posting in there and we got to know each other, and he was going to compete again in the southern states. And so he's like, hey, can you kind of help me out a little bit? And I did it for free. It was just like a buddy thing, but he ended up winning. So
you were prepping him when he won the southern states?
Yeah. So be quiet. So when he
you know what? No. I got to give you credit for that then, because I didn't know that he won the southern states until only like within the last year. And I did not know you were working with him. I really didn't.
I was helping him.
Well, okay,
he did a lot of the work. But
okay,
anyway, so he posted those pictures on the forum. And at that time, if people were around then, I mean, RX Muscle was like, it was a freaking zoo. There were so many people in there.
Yeah.
And he posted them and said that I had helped him and everything. And then people started hiring me, you know, mainly for like PED stuff. Cause I was, you know, I had a pretty good grasp of it. And then it went there to dieting some and on and on and on. And, you know, so that's kind of where it went. I worked for I worked for Iron Mag Labs, and then some of their projects and boards. And then they ended up, so Rob ended up working with Aaron to help start Blackstone. And so when Blackstone started their board, Rob had me and another guy that were working kind of under his wing go be part of that board. And that's where I met Taylor. And I think I met Skip. I met Skip way before that on RX, but that's where I met Taylor. And Taylor came with the idea to do PED radio. So he got Skip. No, actually it was Taylor and I started alone.
Right.
And we had Skip on as a guest. It was funny. Yeah, we had him on about our fourth or fifth guest. And when Skip came on and when the show was over that night, I was thinking, man, you know, that guy would be a good addition, because Taylor and I are, neither one of us are big, long-winded talkers, you know? And because we were thinking, hey, we're going to have a guest on every time because we can't float this thing between the two of us. Well, Skip came on, and that night I was thinking, and it was really weird because Taylor sent me an email like when I sent him one. They crossed paths, and mine said, hey, we should get Skip to come on full time. And his said the same thing. And that's how it started.
And then in the next scene, if you cut to the next scene, those two were running in slow motion down the beach and the sun was setting in. I was running in the opposite direction and we were all coming together, and then it fades to black and we started the podcast. That's the end of the,
we started that. And then things went a different direction after, I don't know how many episodes, 70 or something. I don't remember what it was. And then Skip and I and Mike Arnold were going to do our own podcast, and Mike Arnold and I had started a supplement company. And so that podcast, and I'm going to blame it on me. I didn't put enough research into doing a podcast, and it just didn't pan out. We did a couple episodes. Mike and I had the supplement company doing mostly nootropics. You know, we had creative differences. He wanted to go in one direction. I wanted to go in a different one. So I let him, you know, he stayed with the company and I went in a different direction. And then I don't know how the hell we got on here somehow.
So
Scott asked us.
I think part of the background too, I mean, really the thing is you've done an extensive amount. You had done I know you don't keep up with things as much as you used to, but you had done an extensive amount of research into PEDs, and you were what I would say considered an authority for, you know, about a good, you know, decade there. And I think that's your role here as well, pretty much. But there's some gray areas there, but we can leave them gray.
Well, I was my own test dummy, and that's one thing that comes from probably the Dan Duchesne days of following Dan. Is I always looked at it from, okay, just because this research says this or somebody says this, if you don't give it a run for yourself, you're never really going to know what things do. So I was my own guinea pig for quite a long time.
Yeah,
right.
For good and bad.
Jump in for me here, then, Skip. So, well, actually,
we take off with PED. Here, I'll give you like a very quick cliff notes. We jump in with PED. I think it went real well. We made a couple decisions that we were ahead of ourselves. We didn't know what we were doing. It would be similar to Scott and I right now going, you know what? We don't need Scott McNally. We're going to go do this other thing because I don't know. We think we can do it so much fucking better. And we literally just very, very quickly failed and fell on our ass. So I didn't know what to do. You guys had hooked up, and then I don't know exactly what happened,
right.
but
being
called and we got it going again.
Yeah.
And
Did we start on our
you know, I
own?
would.
Yeah. Well, you started
Yeah.
you started being a guest on Advices Radio.
Oh, I would call you in my car on all kinds of shows.
And then after
Bodybuilding
that,
Nerds,
then we're like, hey, let's get Skip. And then we all reunited. And then it's turned out 102, I think. Now, 102 every other week, mostly every other week.
Wow. So that makes probably Skip and I together. How long ago was PD Radio started?
I want to say like 13.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
about 2013.
7 years. So now I think back to it, I wish we had never invited Skip, but that's a whole nother story.
I'll tell you what, though, podcasting has changed so much because when you guys started PED Radio, and I'll keep us moving here in a minute, but I do want to say this, that nobody was talking about, there was like no PED podcast, you know?
Sure. Yeah.
And performance enhancing radio. It was a good show. You guys did some cool groundbreaking stuff. Now we talk about steroids and everybody's like in one ear out the other because there's 7,000 other people that are talking about this stuff.
Yeah.
But I like it because it brings it back to training and nutrition. Yeah. And I think that that's a better component anyway. I like that we still talk about gear, but it's not the full, it's not 80% gear, 20% training and nutrition. It seems to be far more balanced now, which is the way that it should be, in my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, PED radio got tough for a while topic wise because we'd regurgitated so much of the same stuff. I mean, there's only so much you can talk about.
Yeah.
Well, it was always trend.
We were hemmed in a little bit. Oh, and I did write the DNP protocol, and that just was the worst thing I ever did because nobody would leave me alone for like 2 years.
I'm DNP? With Eric Bassett right there. I miss the forum days too, and I wish they would come back, but that's what all old people say. They like the way that it used to be.
Let's see what else we got here. More off-topic stuff. Okay, more drug stuff too. Would it be beneficial to use a few units of insulin from a health perspective on a refeed day, going 1,000 plus carbs to give the pancreas some help?
2 to 3 IU or 2 to 3 units isn't going to do much of anything.
Yeah,
I'm not saying that it's a bad idea. All I'm saying is with all those carbs, it's not going to really, you're not going to get much of a break. Yeah, you're not going to hit your blood glucose levels all that much with that. Here's my opinion on 2 to 3 IU. The body could literally. Okay, fair enough. Just to give, whoops. Oh, that expensive light almost smashed. Has a very weak base there that I kick sometimes. 2 to 3 units of insulin, you don't even really need carbs for. And I'm going to let S2H slap me if he disagrees with me, but I think he's going to agree with me. Your body can adjust to 2 or 3, unless you're just in a really, like you're in a deficit and you're already running on lower glycogen, depleted glycogen stores, that sort of thing. 2 or 3 units of insulin, your body should be able to adjust without really even taking in any carbs. So if you throw a bunch of carbs in there and you're loading in 2 or 3 units, it's just not going to matter a whole lot. I'm not going to give my dosage recommendation publicly because then that would make people think, oh, shit, I was way too low. I'm going to take way more stuff. But the things you can get away with when you load are not get away with, but they can be beneficial, are significantly higher, and you run a far less risk of going hypo unless you just do a dose, load, and go to bed. And then you could run into problems when you, while you're sleeping, of course.
We're going to agree twice. Yeah, unless you're severely depleted, a couple IUs, you're not even going to really notice anything. Not too much. Hardly at all. And yeah, I mean, for 1,000 grams of carbs, that's there's a lot. You could use a lot more insulin, but I won't say how much because I'm going to kill them.
Right, exactly. For liability reasons. If everybody wants to sign a waiver, then, we could do it. We can have electronic waivers that you can yeah, exactly. Prior to listening to the podcast.
I have personally, in my own bodybuilding, I've never used insulin during a prep. Well, early on, but I'll be completely honest. I mean, I'm not a huge guy, and when I've competed, I've competed in light heavyweight, and I've been, as big. It's not like I've lost muscle or anything, but I honestly don't feel like I've ever personally needed it.
See, I don't think it has anything to do with size. I think it has to do with whether you're responsive to it and whether you can benefit from it. But I don't think that someone being in a different weight class, I think a lot of people make the assumption that, only the heavies and the super huge dudes need insulin. But I don't think that's the case at all. I think it just depends on whether you can benefit. Yeah. And that maybe, see, The other argument too is if you are, when you're dieting, you tend to be more insulin sensitive anyway.
Yes.
So when you end up and your glycogen depleted, do you really need that insulin to be able to pack away those carbs? And I would say probably there's a protocol that has to do with timing in situations like that, where you might use insulin either, let's say, early in the skip load or in a refeed, whatever you want to call it, or later. And I'm not going to say which one, but there's one
when
or
you're
the
less
other
insulin sensitive.
Yes,
maybe
one might be a little bit more beneficial than the other.
Man, I knew if I kept digging, I would learn something today.
Yeah. Now in the off season, the other thing is too, is the people who are genetically predisposed and they just tend to respond very, very well. Unlike the rest of us mere mortals.
Fuck, I never knew that. I never knew that about
just
skip
take
loading.
insulin in the off season, even when you're not ridiculously lean, and they just respond to it. It's almost like it's difficult for those people to become insulin resistant. And remember, there's a balance of insulin sensitivity to insulin resistance. It's not like you're insulin resistant 100% and you're not. It's a combination of the two, and they fluctuate and they lean one way or the other, sometimes heavily, sometimes not as heavily, that sort of thing. But it's a constant shift. It's not just one or the other.
I learned something about skip loading today. I really hadn't known that before.
I could sell you the protocol for $25.
I just got the wheels turning. Something made some sense to me. So.
I mean, it is. He's right though. He's right again. My God. There's a timing issue to it too, and the type of insulin you're using, type of foods. Yep. I mean, how much? I mean, there's guys that compete on insulin that take it to get on the stage. It's not uncommon. So, but you have to do it, it's not something that I highly wouldn't recommend trying it for your first show,
right.
It's not something you don't want to dance that devil up with the unknown out there, but there's a technique to use insulin to load and to compete on it. But I'd say more people use insulin than a lot would think for contest prep.
Yep.
What about, this was just in our group from Steve Barnes. It says, question for any of the shows. My TRT doc recommended a 60% test SIP, 40% test prop mix. What would be the disadvantages and the advantages of this? And any other thoughts?
No disadvantage at all. I don't think. That's why I've always said a lot of my protocols and with my clients, they run, doesn't matter if they're off season or in prep, that they mix long ester tests with short ester test 50 in a roughly 50-50 ratio. So 60 to 40 would qualify. And I think it's a great idea. Now, if you only dose that once a week, the prop level won't be as sustained. You would probably want to do that. I think you can get away with doing it twice a week at roughly 84 hours apart. And that would be like, as an example, a Monday morning, Thursday night. I won't say 84 because that's just the halfway point. That's my OCD-ness coming out. It probably doesn't have to be exactly that. But I think if you dosed it twice a week, once your blood levels were elevated and they were stable, I don't think you would notice that small shift if it didn't, the prop didn't sustain the absolute stability. It would be enough of a small dip that you just wouldn't even notice it 12 or 24 hours before you actually hit the dosage.
Yeah, I mean, some of these doctors are trying to reinvent the wheel because
that is a good point.
When you're getting prescribed that, you're getting pushed to a compound pharmacy, which they're friendly with, let's just say, but they're trying to reinvent a drug called Sustanon, which has been around forever. I mean, I've seen them, several different esters where they'll call for these blends. And I'll be honest with you, I think the main reason they're doing blends is so they can push you onto their compound pharmacy.
That may well be.
Yeah.
That may well be. With someone who's on TRT, I don't think that all of a sudden someone who switches to a blend at 60-40 is going to go, oh my God, this is way better. I don't think that at all. But I do think that anytime you can get away with a shorter ester, you still run the risk of less water retention, even though it's a lower dose, and you shouldn't be holding a lot of water retention there too. But same thing with estrogen kickback. I think with the prop versus the cypionate, you might notice a small adjustment in any type, some type of estrogen kickback. I don't know that it would be substantial because, again, I don't have any experience with the blend with the TRT. But when it comes to the only downfall to that, I think if I had to think out loud, well, with TRT, it wouldn't be that much of a difference, but the shot would be more voluminous, not much, but a little bit. But when you get into the 50-50, the only complaint I've ever had, or concern, I don't know if it's really a complaint with clients, is sometimes if their dosages is higher and they're running 50-50 long and short, that can increase the volume of the shots. You're loading more into pins.
Harder for me to get those 2 grams in every week.
So you could get a 60-40 split of 200 milligrams into 1 milliliter. That's not an issue.
Would they do that at a compounding pharmacy though?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. They'll probably use a different carrier for it to make it a little smoother going in. But yeah, I mean, you there's no problem getting. So say you take 200 milligrams, you've got 60-40. What is that? So that's 120 cypionate, 80 pro. So you can suspend that in 1 mil. And so I hear. And but yeah, I would go with like twice a week, Monday, Thursday, something like that. Because you're going to have a little bit of a lift up. Go ahead.
I say some people do have the issue with probe. I don't have it, so I can't relate, with my personal experience. But I know I've had a lot of clients over the years who some people just cannot tolerate probe. So you may have, I mean, if you don't tolerate it well, it could be more painful, more PIP, that sort of thing. That I'm not real sure. On a lower dose like that, I'm not sure. But there's still the chance that you might not tolerate it, as well as a longer ester.
I've seen that with some people that are almost like just allergic. Palumbo said he couldn't handle a probe, that he had like just an allergy to it.
Fiberlize will fix it.
We got a nice comment here from Eric McCann. He says,
Eric McCann, yeah.
Wanted to jump on real quick. Shout out Skip. Man has helped my wife like no other and taught me along the way.
Skip.
Yeah, those are good people right there. Him and his wife. They're cool.
All right. Now, I don't know if S2H has Ohio. He's not too far from me then. Yeah. Shout out to Ohio from up here in Detroit. We've got, I don't know if S2H has a protocol here, but I've got something that could help Dan Kennedy up in Canada. S2H, do you have a hair loss prevention protocol?
No. So shave your head.
That's what every bodybuilder says.
Dude, let's say this. Dan and Michelle. What if it was Michelle?
This is a topic that has come up a lot of times. Yeah. I've seen people who tried everything, topicals, all this stuff, and they still lost their hair. So I don't know. I think it's more genetic, but maybe there is a way to stop it. I don't know. I don't study hair loss like in depth.
I have.
Well, I know, because look at that forehead.
Answer the damn question and quit wasting time.
No, I'll tell you what. I've been plagued with a high forehead, a 5-head, all my life. And I recently saw a picture of my dad, because when I was a kid, like my dad had like the comb over going, where it was just like the whole thing was like this big chunk of hair. And so from the time I was a little kid, I was like, oh my God, am I going to have to face that one day? And I've always been like, oh man, is it coming? Is it coming? And I was looking at pictures from my 20s, and my hair's like pretty much the same. It's a little bit thinner in the front now, and it's a little bit thinner in the back too than it used to be. But the hairline is pretty much stayed there. But it was getting thinner, and then I started beefing up on basically a hair loss protocol, and it got thicker. And then I beefed it up more, and it got even thicker. I actually had a picture of my grandpa here because he has the same hairline as me.
Well, what's the protocol?
Okay,
Spill
the protocol.
It, bro.
So here's what we do. Here's what we do. So minoxidil, number one, first of all, 5 milligrams twice a day. Now, I also use 2.5 milligrams of finasteride topical every day. So finasteride, we've always known that as being an oral. 1 milligram is the normal dose. A lot of people use that for hair loss. Once you take that orally, we know it goes systemic. You can have potentially finasteride syndrome, as they call it, basically issues from blocking DHT. But there's a bunch of studies. If you check it out, and Dan knows my SO, Victoria Felkar, she was the one who initially had told me about checking this out. So there's a bunch of studies now where they're using finasteride topically. And this is at the point where there is going to be, I guarantee you, there is going to be a product on the market, a prescription of topical finasteride. And they found the combo is that with the minoxidil. So here's what I do. You can get it topical from a compounding pharmacy. I use the foam in the morning, minoxidil foam on its own. They say that the foam will absorb better into your hair follicle and your scalp and all of that. But then in the evening, I use the liquid, and it's actually in PEG. So they use just like PEG like they would for research chemicals.
It smells good.
Yeah, but it actually doesn't have that strong of a smell, that whatever grade it is, But then I take my tablets. I get the 5 milligram tablets, drop them right in that bottle. They dissolve. Is
that what they sound like for real when you put it in?
Yeah, I take each one.
Okay.
And I set it so that I have, I figure out the ratio. So I get, every time I take the dose, I get 2.5 milligrams of topical finasteride. And to top it all off, I use Nazoral shampoo about every other day, 2% prescription. Ian Valliere, he commented on he's in the group. He commented, said something along the same thing. When we were talking about this a while ago. He has another shampoo. So he does the Nazoral one day and then the other shampoo the other day. And that dude's got a full head of hair, those luscious blonde locks of his. So,
hypothetical question. Completely hypothetical. If I were to get these compounds and say middle of the night when I'm working, I get up and I go into my bedroom and I wipe them on my wife's boobs every night, like the lotion and stuff. Would she grow hair on her titties? I'm just asking. It's just a hypothetical. I would never do that to her, but is it possible, or is it because there's not hair follicles there that wouldn't work?
Let me ask you, do you want that?
I'm curious.
I don't do it.
That's what I...
Oh, you mean you're curious? Is that what you're trying to tell us?
I've been married for years. I've seen the same titties for 30 years. I don't know. Maybe it looked a little different.
I thought you meant you were curious. Like you wanted to hairy chest. Okay, never mind.
Oh, shit. She'd wake up in the morning one morning and be like, I don't know what the fuck, what's going on? I gotta shave my titties. What's going on here?
It'll be a cruel job.
We're going downhill quick. Yeah, we're going downhill quick.
One of the guys from it was one of the guys from one of the other podcasts was saying he was going to put it on his beard, see if he could get a beard to grow in thicker. But
why couldn't you? I don't understand why it wouldn't work, right? If there's hair follicles there.
Yeah, I don't know. But I did notice a difference. So
I'll try that. Maybe I'll get a beard out of this deal.
So you gotta do that long term though. Once you get a minoxidil, your hair becomes addicted to it. So
for real,
yeah. Like once you start, it's a commitment until you're ready to go bald. You got to keep rocking that out. Otherwise, you will lose that hair.
It's like a 12-step program if you get off of it.
Yeah, right.
Support groups.
We had was that another question in the feed? We did get some feedback from that guy's only taking that once a week, the test SIP Pro Mix.
I'd probably take it twice.
Yeah,
I'd split it in half. Yep. Yep.
We had one.
I like splitting everything up, so better blood levels. Max
Halliday joins us. He also says shave your head. But he's got a comment for us or a question here too. This is it's kind of a long one, Max. I'm going to chastise you for making me read such a long question, but I will also read your question. We appreciate you always, brother. And I think too, S2H, we need to set him up on a mandate with S2H because he's from Texas and he bass fishes. So there's that.
That's a good guy there.
Shit, my page just jumped. Something loaded, and now it's gone. All right. Shit. Yeah, that really happened. Oh, my God. I'm getting ready to read it, and all of a sudden my page jumped. I'm sorry, guys. All right, here it is. Am I delusional or just in denial? Although age, work, and years of training have begun to affect the way I approach my training, my mindset is still that of a 15-year-old version of myself, wanting to be so big that it would cause people to stop in their tracks just to be able to comprehend what they are looking at walking down the street. With that said, I find myself pushing through either intensity or weight each and every workout, sometimes to the point of either tweaking an old injury or at least causing me to make those traditional old man noises every time I get up off the couch or reach for something over my head. So why can't I just accept the fact that everything has an expiration date and just slow down and maintain what I've been able to, what I have as I begin to approach what they call my so-called golden years? By the way, I'm 56 with 40 years of training and 30 years of military service. Dude, first of all, I would have never guessed that Max Holiday was 56.
I would agree with that as well.
Never,
yeah. That's unfortunate because now we have to look and go, oh shit, thanks, Max.
Also, that was well written.
We're
So
making us all look bad. I want to answer this. I am dying to answer it because this is true. Okay. This is exactly why him and people his age, me included, number one, we're wired differently, but the main reason is because we go to social media and we see everyone we went to school with who is the same age we are, and we see the consequences of throwing your hands up and giving up and quitting giving a shit, not quitting training or anything else, but quitting giving a shit and then blaming it on your kids and life and a career. And people like us who are wired different sit back and go, you got to be fucking kidding me. You know that you look at the people you went to school with and you go, when did your fucking ass give up? Like, at what point in your life did you say, fuck it, I don't really care anymore? And I know that sounds bad. I know it may sound judgmental, shitty, whatever. I don't care. I'm not 50 years old going, oh my God, I'm way hotter than the rest of these motherfuckers I went to school with. That's not it. But I can't give up because I am reminded constantly of what these people, and they look like hell. They clearly look like they gave up. They gave up. They look older than what they do. They're out of shape. They're unhealthy. They're complaining they're going to die from COVID. And at the same time, they've got comorbidities that they have complete control over. That's my rant.
That's beautiful. I thought it was really concise too, which is unlike
very eloquent. I think eloquent too. Yeah.
I like that.
I think the solution for Max is to buy a convertible Corvette. And that at 56, and then he will forget thinking about other things because he has hit the midlife.
No, he won't. What he'll do is he'll look cooler forward into the gym parking lot.
He made an interesting part of that comment. One of that caught me. He said he had 30 years of military service. Being that I was a military guy too, I think there's a competitive nature in the military to always you either stay in the top of your game or strive to, or you get sent back. And if you do 30 years, that means you didn't have crappy evaluations. You performed, in the top, whatever percent, I don't know what percent they use, but of your peer group. So that's one thing about the military is if you're a turd, you're going to be sent packing early. So by saying he did 30 years, it tells me that he probably excelled in his MOS and his peer group. So he's probably used to, you 30 years of gaming, you're going to keep gaming. So
high expectations for himself. And then when he's not in, he's got to have something else to focus on. It's like professional athletes when they get out, they have to do something else because they feel like they're wasting time if they don't. You're either competitive and you want to continue to get better and set the bar higher for long periods of time, no matter what it is, or you just sit back and you go, fuck it. And we're on those two groups of people are complete bipolar opposites, and they can't even fucking relate. They can't understand each other. We're looking at them going, why the fuck did you give up? Why would you not care? They're looking at us like we're crazy because we spend too much time in the gym. We're too vain. Pick one.
I like it. Well, I hope that gives you something, Max. He also, what did he say there? Oh no, more head shaving stuff. All right, I'll just move on. Get another training question here. Volume of work sets for an arm workout. He says, it sounds like he's doing 10 to 14 reps to failure. What do you guys think? S2H? Skip? Anybody?
Yeah. This is such a gray, some people do better with higher. Okay. That's a good
10
way
to 12.
I'll tell you what I do. I finish because my arms are a relative strong point. Now, when I say relative strong point, they're not freaking awesome, but they're so much better than all my other shitty body parts that I have to prioritize the other shitty body parts. So what I do is I'm on push, pull, leg rotation, and I finish up with arms because they're not as much of a priority. So right now, my arm volume and workload is significantly lower than everything else because it takes less of a priority. So I finish with only about 6 working sets for arms, tries, and 6 for bis. Not counting warm-ups, I'll do, say, 3 exercises, 2 working sets that are either to failure or slightly past failure, whatever else. I am running higher reps now than I've ever done at any other phase in my very long time that I've been training. I won't say how many years because everybody knows how many years. But in case you don't know, it's 36. Anyway, that was the rest to age. The point is my arm training volume is low right now. So it just depends on what that person responds to. But typically, I will say this: the large majority of people do too much volume when it comes to arms because they're getting a lot of direct arm work when they're pushing and pulling with heavy weights. In fact, I go so far as to say, and that's why I'm going to keep talking because I see him shaking his head over out in the corner, the large majority of your arm size is, once you have trained for a significant amount of time, doesn't, in my opinion, come from direct arm work. It comes from heavy pushing and pulling. Go for it, Scott.
Curls for girls, baby. Curls for girls. You got to get
I agree. We're looking at that completely differently.
Yeah, I think biceps probably the most, well, bicep or chest are the 2 most overworked muscle groups. So I always did mine secondary, kind of like the skip. I never liked, well, since I tore my bicep twice, it probably doesn't got to where I disliked them more. But I do them secondary too. I think people overdo them. Maybe like 9 working sets, maybe 12.
I despise training bicep. Don't like them. Never have. Don't like them.
Girls, baby. Curls.
I didn't know you're doing. I'm going to ask you guys a personal question for myself, meaning like But before I do though, I wanted to say, Skip, I didn't know you were doing push pull legs now.
Yeah, but it's a rotation. It's kind of an odd rotation. It's a 3-day rotation over 4 days. And the reason I'm doing that is so that every week, whatever I hit on Monday, I come back and I hit on Friday, and that changes every week.
That's exactly what I do.
Nice. And that's why I stole it from you. But anyway.
So people don't.
I do. I like the frequency.
People don't, I think, realize if they just watch this podcast, if they don't know you, I'm going to tell you right now, and this is a compliment actually. You look a lot smaller on the podcast than you actually are, because like it cuts us off. Like you're a big dude.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
You do. You don't come off as big as you actually are. I just was thinking that I wanted to throw that out there because when you're saying you arms are decent for you, I thought about when I met you in person at the Arnold a couple of years ago now, and yeah, you got some size. You're a big dude, but I wanted to ask you though, because about arms. So I'm the opposite of you, where my arms, they're not the best. I don't have like an awesome bicep peak. Over time, they've obviously gotten bigger because everything's gotten bigger. But I feel like as I've done this routine, push, pull, legs, that what I do is, the arms are a secondary thing for me. What advice would you have for someone like myself who has been doing exactly what you're talking about, where it's just like a secondary thought, but I'd like to maybe ramp that up a little bit? If I go too high, then I start getting elbow issues. So that's the other end of the thing,
Well, and that's part of the appeal of training arms after they're warm on a push and a pull setup is you're not usually going to have, tricep tendon issues or, bicep tendon issues when you do that. But that's the thing. If you do need look, I have much better arm training sessions when I train arms on one day by themselves. The problem is then you come in cold and you got to make sure you're damn warm, because if you just go straight, and the other thing is I don't train triceps first. If I train tris and bis together, I'm training bis first because that will help to warm up my elbows so that my elbows it'll take me halfway through a tricep session before my elbows actually feel good. Yeah. And that just takes too long to warm up. I'm too fucking old for that. I got to take time to warm up. So I hit bis first and then I come into into tris, but you got to give them their own day. You got to give them their own day so that you're training them fresh. They do need to take priority. The problem with that is then you have to balance the training intensity and the recovery versus when you come back around to do your heavy pressing and pulling for chest and back. Because if you're nailing your arms directly with high intensity and heavy loads, then you may have a hard time coming back and putting, big loads with compound movements on, chest or with back. And I did say putting big loads on. I did say that on your chest. Big loads on your chest. I said that.
Okay, what about now? Obviously I'm pretty progressive with the key body parts, chest, back, and leg movements. Are you as progressive with something like arms? Are you pushing that same intensity?
Definitely intensity. I mean, are you talking about like progressive overload though? I mean, as far as overload, like strength and
yeah, well,
I think you have to be really careful with that. And depending on, because you have to be careful no matter what the muscle group is. But, I guess an example, if you're going to go in and you're going to think, I saw Dusty Henshaw doing, skull crushers with 220 or Justin, Troponin, Justin Harris doing 225 on a fucking bench bar. It looks like he's going to bench a close grip and then he just goes into a lying tricep extension. That would just rip my fucking tricep tendons just right off the bone. I'm certain of it. But anyway, we're not built the same, obviously. You have to be very, very careful. And I mean, it sounds kind of, rehearsed and gosh, you say it all the time. But when you're doing things like skull crushers or overhead tricep extensions, remember Matt Porter had that problem where he injured his tricep tendon doing overhead dumbbell extensions. I think, and I don't know that he was doing them this way, but the large majority of doing overhead tricep extensions injuries is because you're straight up. The angle isn't right. I've written a lot of articles about this. The angle has to be open. You should actually be on a high incline instead of sitting straight up to do overhead tricep extensions so that you don't put that tricep tendon in a vulnerable position. As that elbow comes forward and the angle closes, and this is what makes me nervous about this, and I got to say, it makes me nervous about Dusty. But let me say very, very clearly that Dusty does not need my fucking advice anymore. He doesn't need it. He's well past that. He moves weight that machines that crush cars in junkyards can't fucking move. I mean, the guy is just insanely strong. But he does his skull crushers in a different fashion that make me cringe because his elbows, he closes that angle between the elbow and the torso. It's, God damn it, I'm trying to show, but it's closed. It's not open. It needs to be open for the large majority of mere mortals. Not in, but opening up. Let me see if I can do this.
All right.
Opening the angle of the upper arm versus the torso. As soon as, and Dusty does this, he brings his elbows way down and he closes this angle and it puts more pressure. Us mere mortals, it puts that tricep tendon in a vulnerable position to literally be injured. And with those types of weights, I'm like, man, that guy's body is built for that shit. So he can get away with it. But goddamn, a lot of people, large majority of people can't get away with that. You keep that angle open and that the tricep tendon is not in anywhere near as vulnerable of a position, not only for injury, but for itis. I call it old man itis, inflammation or irritation of the tricep tendon, where it's not necessarily injured, but it just fucking hurts all the time.
I'm still trying to make sure I get a grip on what you're saying now. I picked up something from the Mountain Dog. His YouTube. I was watching some of his arm training. One of my favorite tricep exercises is a skull crusher with dumbbells on an incline bench press. And when I did them, I'd have my arms back behind my head. When John does them, he does them right here. Are you saying that's the same thing that Dusty does?
Yes, I haven't seen John do them.
Okay.
Now, if John is holding like pretty much a 90 degree from his upper arm to his torso, then that's okay. If that angle closes and it gets smaller than 90 degrees,
like
then
this,
it becomes
more like this.
Exactly.
That's what
open means going further back.
Okay.
That makes me nervous. And here's the thing. This is where we get into conflicting opinions with people that we have a lot of respect for and they have a lot of knowledge and experience. I'm not saying they're wrong. All I'm saying is, in my experience with myself and with clients and injuries and me training so long, that is a vulnerability for a lot of people, the majority of people. When you open that angle, even just slightly past 90 degrees, the vulnerability drops off considerably.
I didn't know
considerably. It's much safer.
I've always done them behind my head, but when I tried that, I felt like I didn't have to stretch as far. And because of that, it felt safer to me, honestly. I'm not trying to put you on the spot or anything. I'm just, but this is something I'd say to you off the air too. I'm just, because and
I don't mind being put on the spot. I just don't want to sound to anybody listening like I'm saying John Meadows doesn't know what the fuck he's talking about. Because people will get those weird, they'll take what you're saying out of context. And that is not at all what I mean.
Skip rip you up, John?
Exactly. Yeah. Or about the deads. It's the same thing. And that's why I was so careful about the deads, because I do, and you know me well enough. Yeah. If there was something that was totally fucked up that I just think that's just irresponsible and wrong, I don't know that I would care who it was who said that. I would say, I think that's irresponsible and wrong. The thing is people like Dusty, the people, that support or are arguing about the deadlifts differences and stuff like that. John Meadows, they have tons of knowledge and experience, and they would never say something that's irresponsible. This is just a different, not methodology, but it's just a different opinion on the same thing. I'm going by what I've seen. Yeah. They may not have seen that same thing.
Yeah. Okay.
Or you know what? I mean, it's possible. Maybe they hear what I say and they think to themselves and they go, oh, I guess I hadn't thought about that. There are other things that other people have said that I've thought, God damn, I've been doing this shit for a long time. That makes complete sense. I would not have thought about that. Now, I'm not saying that's what they'll say, but they may think I didn't think about the vulnerability because I've never had an issue with it before.
Yeah.
They can get away with things that they're built differently than the rest of us. And that's why I want to be clear on that. They can get away with things and go, I don't know, my triceps never bothered me before. Why would I think about that?
We have no more bodybuilding questions. Can we ask S2H about guns for a minute?
I don't give a shit. Go for it.
Well, let me wake up real quick. I was kind of losing it there. What do you want to know?
What do you think? So I was talking to a friend of mine. He's a police officer. He said that the department that he works for, they carry the Glock 43 for their plainclothes officers. But for his personal choice, he likes, it's this little, I think J frame, you call it, Smith & Wesson 5-shot 38 plus P. What do you think of that?
I mean, I think if the gun goes bang and you know how to use it, I mean, a lot of people own guns, they can't hit anything with them. So I mean, if he's comfortable with it and he shoots it well, that's his choice. That's kind of a personal choice.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not something I'd take it over nothing, but
that's not your choice. Would you prefer the Glock?
Yeah, the 43 with one of the Vickers or whatever plus 2 extensions.
Dude, after we closed the show down last week, S2H started telling us all sorts of stuff about guns. Do you remember that, Skip?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. And that I was like, damn, I never would have thought that. I thought it was complete. But what was that? The shot going through the windshield, right?
Oh, yeah.
That one. Yeah. That threw me. I was like, I'll be damned.
I still don't get that.
Path of least resistance.
I can't put it together either. I've thought about it when I'm driving. Have you not done the same thing? And I think to myself, how does it go the other way? That doesn't make any fucking sense.
Yeah, that doesn't make sense. Tell everybody then, Scott. So we were talking about shooting. We're talking about if you had to shoot someone through your windshield, basically. Well, this is what we talk about after the show.
Well, the energy of the bullet is going to take the path of least resistance. So going into a front windshield, or any glass that's at an angle, the bullet's going to go down when it enters. When it comes out from, let's say you're inside the vehicle and you're shooting out the front windshield, it's going to go up. Now, there's deviations to the angle of attack, so the angle that you're taking the shot at. But if you take a flat linear shot in the glass, it's going to go up, coming out, and down, going in on angled glass. And it's also contingent on what kind of glass it is. So like European cars, BMWs, Mercedes stuff have different added fiber stuff or fiberglass stuff in their windshield because their safety standards are a little different. So you're going to get more deviation out of a European car.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense to me, but also I can't imagine the time where I'd actually be shooting through my windshield.
Come down and we'll shoot you some windshields and you can see.
I've seen that on your videos before. That's like some tactical training you guys do, huh?
Yeah.
He doesn't say much.
And stuff.
Okay.
So, yeah, your side windshields, like on your vehicles, you're going to get them. It's obviously the glass is flat; it's up and down.
I mean, side window
angle. Yeah, side windows. I mean, but there's different for other pieces like double pane glass and different stuff. Storm windows, they're all going to affect rounds differently. But yeah, basically front windshield, back. If it's angled, you're coming out, it's going to go up. Coming in, it's going to go down.
Huh. All right.
It is. It's crazy.
And that's going to vary by the caliber, the type of bullet. But, in general, most of your handgun bullets are going to deviate. I don't know, coming out, you're looking at probably, if you have a target 2 to 3 yards in front of the bumper, you're probably going to have 6 inches of rise, 6 to 8, on the initial first shot. Now, after that, you've already created a hole in the glass. Then the story's a little different.
Right, but the 9 out of 10 of us can't hit the fucking hole again anyway because of the adrenaline surge and the ringing in our ears.
The glass is still compromised, so if you're anywhere near the hole, it's not going to have as much deviation.
Good point. Good point.
Yeah.
Good point. Now, I guess the answer then would be to have double pane because then it goes one way, it goes the other way, and then it comes out the way it's supposed to.
Double pane's a little trickier, especially if you're pointing at an angle. If your point of aim's at an angle, it can throw around a lot farther off.
Oh shit!
So.
Okay.
All right. Well, I guess that's all we got. I want to throw some gun stuff in there, though. Anything else, Skip?
I had a $200 brunch buffet today, one of the top 5 in the country. And let me tell you,
how much?
There was $200 per person.
Is this the one you went to and you didn't get in last time?
We couldn't because we didn't have a reservation. Shut up, asshole.
Oh, that place. You went.
Yeah, it was, and I tell you, it was everything. I was skeptical because I thought it's just going to be because these are rich people. It's not going to taste that good. I'm going to be disappointed. But when I walked in and I got the video on my Instagram of the food and there's a guy playing a harp, and every time he's done, the whole room claps like rich people. Not like, but they're like this.
Oh, real classy.
Yeah, and I did too, it was funny because you had to wear day wear resort, so I got white shorts, a pink polo, that sort of shit. And I wouldn't let anybody call me Skip. I had my clients call me Chip. Yeah, I did too. And they wouldn't play along. I really don't.
Did you have the sweater tied around your neck?
I was gonna do that, but the fucking sweater was $180, and I didn't want to buy it for one day because I live in South Florida. I could have gotten away with it today because it was in the 60s, but I was like, no, I ain't gonna. But I was going to tie that motherfucker around my neck and that sort of thing. But I tell you this, I won't go again anytime soon because I don't have that kind of money. I can't fucking do that very frequently. But it was worth every penny. It was really fucking good. But the guy playing the harp and everything, it was I'll tell you what it was. It was something that I was comfortable because I was with my clients. Yeah. But outside of that, it's not an atmosphere that I'm completely comfortable being in. And that's not my wheelhouse, really. The food is and everything else, and our table was, but it's just, harp playing in the background. And the people sitting around, it's not new money, it's old money. They don't have a clue what it's like to not have millions and millions of dollars. Yeah. So it's something that they weren't necessarily comfortable with. They didn't notice us and couldn't give a shit. But my insecurities came out a little bit because I thought, I don't fucking belong here. I need to eat, have fun, get the fuck out of here, and not come back anytime soon.
I got 2 questions.
It's just not my place.
A, what was the best food on the buffet? And B, how much insulin did you take before you went?
Nah, exactly. I actually took the insulin at the table. I took the insulin at the table, accidentally dropped the syringe. It was nasty. People were like, what the fuck's going on? No, no insulin. Haven't used insulin on load days in probably a year and a half. But anyway.
You didn't have a pin in each ear?
Yeah, exactly. Like a cigarette behind my ear. Yeah. Everything. And because I've been asked this a couple times. When it's a brunch, I go for breakfast shit. I'm not going to, they had lobster and like whole shelled lobster. Like you didn't even have to work to get it out.
Ooh.
Like it's just out. They had rack of lamb that was like lamb. And I've had really good lamb. And I try to stay away from rack of lamb because I'm a little pretentious in the sense I want a lamb chop. I don't want little fucking lamb popsicles. But they were freaking everything I ate was incredible. The desserts, I don't even like cheesecake, but the key lime cheesecake was to die for. And I went to take the leaf off of it. It wasn't a leaf. It was a fucking fake chocolate leaf that someone had drawn with fine detail on it, the veins of a leaf. I thought it was a mint leaf. So I went to pick it up and that's awful hard mint leaf. Like, what the fuck? So I go to smell it, don't smell like mint. I fucking eat it.
Holy
like,
shit.
Oh my God, that's a fucking decoration. It was just real. It was over the top. Like it was well worth the money. And that's hard to say for $200.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. When you pay that kind of money, you know full well you're walking out of there fucking miserable. Like, I'm trying to get my money's worth, and I'm like, I can't eat anymore, but it's $200 fucking dollars. I'm eating as much as I can eat. It was really, really good. I wish my wife said, she's like, how good was it? Because she's not in town. She's spending time, I think, with, she says her sister, which I think is code for boyfriend. But anyway, she's over in Tampa.
She's here. It's okay.
And she goes, how good was it? Can I go? Do you think we could go back? I'm like, go back over there. I invited you to the first time. You didn't want to go. That's why I went with my clients. She can't bring herself to spend $200
I
on
get that.
food because she just wants to drink mimosas. And she's like, I can do that at a $50 buffet. Where I want to see with the food and take it in. Well, once she saw it, she's like, do you think we could go back there? I'm like, you can go back there with my clients, but I ain't taking you because for you and I to go, that's $400 fucking dollars.
Yeah.
And Goose, she's not going because if I take my daughter, that's $600. No, not happening. So we probably will go back, but it won't be for a little while yet.
That's cool. Good
though. Very, very good. It's an experience that I haven't had, and it won't be something that I, can do very frequently, but it was very cool. We had a good time. Laughed a lot, stuff like that. My clients that I went with are cool as shit. So it was good. It was good.
S2H and I were talking about getting together, me coming down there and shooting some guns. I kind of want to do it, Scott. Let me ask you, do you guys have like automatic firearms that we could shoot?
Select fire?
Yeah. Well, I guess that's what you call it.
Get him a 50 cal.
I'm not even, you know what? I'm not even interested in the 50 cal.
It's so
belt-fed machine guns.
Yeah, I want, belt-fed machine gun. I saw a minigun. You guys got one of those?
No, M134 Dillon minigun. No.
I think it's insane, man. I've been watching too much YouTube.
They make a new one now. GE makes one. Well, it's not newer, I should say.
GE?
Yeah, they're pretty.
Like my refrigerator.
They're electric miniguns.
Holy shit!
They run off.
I'm going to talk about a 50 cal handgun for the record. I'm not talking about that.
Yeah, that would be cool.
Fucking range. You can blow up cinder blocks. It's not. You don't think that's fun, Scott? For real? That's too
a handgun.
I thought that was a 50 cal rifle. Where you?
Oh, I thought you were talking about the handgun. I want to shoot the 50 cal handgun. That'd be fun.
Oh, we got those M107A1 Barrett. Yeah.
God, that was fun. Oh my God.
You shot one of them.
Yeah, in Fargo, Thomas Kemper, right? The NPC chair for North Dakota, South Dakota. God damn,
I know who he is, but I don't know him.
Yeah. Anyway, I went up there to do this is a handful of years ago, maybe 6 or 7 years ago, and
to do what?
Middle of fucking February to do a seminar at between prejudging and the night show because he is the NPC chair, and him and a couple guys took me out. And when I say it's cold, it's a different level of fucking cold out there in the middle of a field. And he opened up the back of the truck, and there was like this arsenal back there. And we shot against the train tracks, which were elevated, and we were blowing up cinder blocks from I don't know. It wasn't very far away. To me, it was like 100, maybe about 100, maybe 130 yards, something like that. But I'm telling you,
the grain bullet.
You hold the shaker, no shit, and not the shaker. You hold the round, and it's like a baby rattle. Then they're like what, $7 a fucking round. You can hear the gunpowder like a fucking baby rattle.
Really?
No shit, yeah, because it's been a little while. That's true. So much fun. Oh my God, you got to shoot. It's so fucking cool.
That sounds crazy. I saw a handgun that I have no need for ever. I want to get it, Scott. It's called it's a 454, I think. It's called like the Alaskan River something or another. What's that gun?
Yeah, it's like the 500 Smith & Wesson, same thing.
What is that called? It's called the Alaskan something River.
I don't know. I mean, it's got a whole. I mean, it's
a revolver. Yeah,
it's got a little bit of recoil. I think Ruger makes one. Smith & Wesson makes a 500. I mean, they're not sure go to the range and have fun shooting guns.
Yeah, they said they're like for
shoot the bear.
Yeah, they're for like protection for hiking and stuff around bear country. That'd be crazy.
10mm works good on bears.
Yeah,
so I heard. Yeah.
All right, let's get out of here, guys. For another episode of Blood, Sweat, and Gear with Skip Hill, S2H. You can reach out to Skip over at teamskip.com. Don't try to track S2H down because you'll probably be sorry. Scott, Skip, and I, we don't try. We suggest you don't.
It's all good.
Check out truenutrition.com. Use our code ADVICES, guys. Thanks for hanging out on the live feed. And I don't think I mentioned it, but do us a favor. Give us a like. You probably already did if you stuck around this long. See you guys.